Madam Chair, and it's a pleasure to serve under you, and it's a pleasure to be in the chamber with so many of my favourite colleagues, and look around, and I genuinely am so inspired and pleased, gratified to be among this group of parliamentarians of all parties. I don't know what it is that binds us together, well I do, but we're mostly believers. But I really do pay tribute to everybody here, particularly to the honourable gentleman, and my congratulations to him on his very significant appointment. I very much welcome his role, and to my honourable friend opposite for her championing of this agenda over many years and for calling this debate. I think it is necessary to acknowledge at the outset, and I hope in slight contradiction to the honourable gentleman opposite, that this won't be taken as too sort of Christo-chauvinist a perspective, a sort of Christian supremacist principle. But I do actually genuinely believe that the liberties that we are here to defend on behalf of all religions, as the honourable gentleman says, absolutely, of all belief systems around the world. The reason we do that in this country is because we have a Christian foundation to our politics. And the source of all our liberties, the source of the principle of political liberty, that this country has sporadically and with some success and some failures helped to export around the world, derive fundamentally from the Christian foundations of our political institutions and our political philosophy. And what we think of as the intrinsic value of every human being, where does that come from? It only comes from one place, which is the Bible. And all of our laws and what we now call human rights have this origin. And indeed, the very concept of the secular space, in which you're free to believe anything or nothing, derives ultimately from the Christian principle that everybody has value, and that it's not right to pry into other men's or women's souls. So I don't agree with the honourable gentleman that we derive our legitimacy to speak into the space because of our past sins as a country or as a civilization. I recognise those. But actually, I think we are speaking into this area on this topic because we are the heirs of a tradition which recognises fundamentally the value of Christianity. And to his understandable regional patriotism about Northumberland and think of St Cuthbert and the great saints of those days, I bring him King Alfred, who defended Wessex, Wiltshire, against the Vikings and pushed back the tide of paganism, restored Christianity to England, and ultimately helped to export Christianity to the world. So actually being proud of the Christian basis of our politics in this country, I think, is appropriate to this debate. Happy to give way.
Just quite quickly, and I'm not trying to take others' time, but the issue of human rights and persecution are two things that you can't divorce. If there's persecution, then there's human rights abuse. If there's human rights abuse, there's persecution. And does he agree that that's also the central figure and central focus for us as Christians, that we stand up for everybody, those with religious faith, those with no faith, and those with different faiths?
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. And of course, it's not just Christians who think this, but I do think in our country, and it's right that we do proudly stand on this ground, that we defend the rights of everybody to absolute freedom of belief. And as I say, I think we do that because ultimately our foundation of our politics is Christian. Let me just refer quickly to the Holy Land, as honourable members have done. And I've become chair of the APPG for Christians in the Holy Land, at the instigation of our former colleague David Linden, sad loss to the House on this topic, at least, not on others. But he encouraged me to take up this role, and so I've been having a number of very, very powerful and moving conversations with Palestinian Christians about the state of the church in the Holy Land. And in fact, I visited many years ago during the Second Intifada in the early 2000s with Canon Andrew White, who was the Church of England's representative to the Holy Land in those days, and a very great man. And we saw how we visited Bethlehem, and I saw how absolutely desperate the plight of the church was at that time. And it is true to say that, and as the honourable ladies now left acknowledged, that it has got worse, and the state of the church in the Holy Land is very, very dire now. And I just acknowledge the fact that that is the consequence of Israeli government activity, and I recognise that. And as a strong supporter of Israel, I recognise how hard it is for Christians in the West Bank to worship. I also, on that trip, visited, or not, around that time, a different trip, visited with Andrew White Iraq just after the invasion, and at that point we could wander around quite freely, and there was a sense that there was going to see a new flourishing of religious freedom in Iraq. And we visited St George's Cathedral in Baghdad, and there was a service. It was reopened after the war, and it was a wonderful moment of Iraqi Christians as well as lots of American and British soldiers present as well, and it felt like a dawning of something wonderful in Iraq. Of course, within months that church was closed. Many of the Christians that we'd met were dead, and the tragedy of the American-led invasion was that Christianity in Iraq has been severely oppressed ever since, and of course we know about the similar phenomena in Syria and elsewhere since. So the tragedy of nation building, often led by Christians in the Middle East, has not been good for the church. But the principal enemy of Christianity globally, Madam Chair, is not misapplied Western liberalism. It is alternative religions and ideologies, particularly Marxism in China, radical Hinduism in India, and of course Islam, radical Islam, all over the world. And honourable members have mentioned that my right honourable friend has mentioned Nigeria, an absolutely appalling situation there. 3,000 people killed a year in recent years, getting on for 250,000 people displaced. I think that's around half the total global numbers for those statistics of killed and displaced in Nigeria. In Algeria, as the Honourable Lady mentioned, I think I want to call particular attention to the Kabila people, a Berber community in the north of the country who have been resisting the Islamist ideology of the Algerian government for many years and have suffered severe persecution. And they are attempting self-determination. And their slogan is, "In the name of all beliefs." And I want to acknowledge that, going back to my original point, that when we defend Christianity, we are defending everybody. And I want to pay tribute to that campaign. I want to finish by just asserting this point. Christianity is established in the West, and therefore we think of it as the sort of dominant philosophy, even though in many ways in our country I don't feel it is anymore. But it is the shield of minorities everywhere, and I think we need a stronger promotion of the value of Christianity in every society. And we should not simply be defensive in debates like this about defending the status quo, defending Christians. We actually should be, supporting those who promote Christianity, sympathetically, of course, and always peacefully. But the promotion of Christianity is a moral good, because wherever Christianity is, life is better. And I pay tribute to the honourable gentleman. I couldn't put it better than he did, in our absolute sense that Christianity is good for people. So to finish with, I want to pay tribute to Fiona Bruce, the honourable gentleman's predecessor, great friend of many of us, and a pioneer in this space in the last Parliament and over many years for her work promoting religious freedom and belief in this country and around the world. And I think it's a great shame that the bill that she was championing fell before the last election. I don't know if the honourable gentleman would have welcomed that, but I don't know if the government has any intention of reviving the measures that were proposed in that bill, which were to establish the position of the envoy on a statutory footing, properly resourced, rather than something that, as it were, exists at the whim of the government. So I regret that fell, but I do pay tribute to her, and I pay tribute particularly to the honourable gentleman. I think it's a tremendous thing that he is now in post, and he has a great and important role to do. And absolutely lastly, just to end on a note of hope, there are great things happening in the world. And Christianity is not oppressed, not downtrodden, not downcast. We are actually seeing very, very positive signs of growth and revival in China. The house church movement has won many millions of converts. And here in the UK, Madam Chair, I'm encouraged. There's a report from the Bible Society and Theos recently called Quiet Revival, which demonstrates that actually quietly we are seeing new growth of our faith here in the UK, and on that basis I have confidence in the future. Thank you.